Oh no. Oh no. There we are. Morning. Good morning. Let's get our commute on. Let's chat for a little while, shall we? Okay. So my main topic of conversation this morning is a very surprising revelation to me. And that surprising revelation is as follows. We had a shockingly small amount of gas in the tank when it came to mental health. Like a shockingly small amount. I don't know if you noticed this, but we had about 8 months total of mental health in the tank. Not much. Things are starting.
Your mobile device has lost connection to the internet.
Very cool.
Please try again a bit later.
Very cool. There was about 8 months, as I said, of endurance in the tank, where we heard you're gonna have to go home, you're gonna have to stay apart, you're gonna have to not crowd around, get too close, and we all said, all right, we'll do it for Queen and Country. Sure. So we did. And for a while, like there was a good 2-3 month period where people baked bread and made muffins and went for walks and had this sense of solidarity and endurance that lasted for, as I say, like a good a couple of months. And then things dragged onwards, and people got less and less and less good at the whole staying apart thing. Or not, sorry, I want to rephrase that. They didn't get bad at staying apart. That they were still fine with, and they've by and large done an okay job. Like, people haven't been very rebellious on that topic. They haven't said, I'm just going to refuse to stay apart. I'm going to get together in large numbers. Like, yeah, you see outside cases of that, but not like in massive, massive numbers. By and large, people are relatively obedient to the rules. Fine. But what you do see happening is people not doing overly well with the whole distance thing mentally, that they are suffering, and suffering quite a bit. There's a and like it doesn't do it enough credit to call it like loneliness. That's not really the same thing, or not genuinely speaking the same as loneliness. What you have happening is people coming apart, people fracturing at the seams, and not like sitting at home and pining and being lonely and saying, boy, I sure wish I had somebody to spend time with. That's like more acute and understood as loneliness. What we're seeing happening right now isn't understood by the people that are living it as a symptom of being apart from each other. You're seeing people unravel in a wide number of ways in which we didn't really realize how much we were being held together by the people that were around us. We just sort of took it for granted. In the same way a fish doesn't know that water is wet, we didn't know that the people that were around us, that made up our community, that made up our local people, we didn't realize how much they were holding us together. We had no clue. It didn't ever factor into us that that was the case until all of a sudden they weren't there, and we began to unravel. And what I mean by that is that when the proverbs say, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another, we're living that out, and we're becoming unsharp. Like, we are not being sharpened by each other. Like, our mental acuity is and functioning is not being sharpened by being around other people. We are not growing and carrying on in the same way we used to. Now, that's not to say that we can't, but that is to say that we're not. Now, whether you think the book of Genesis, the beginning of Genesis, the creation in Genesis, whether you think that happened literally like that or not, whether you think that God made the universe in 6 literal 24-hour days, doesn't matter. Ursula Le Guin, a fantasy author, had a great line about the truth of stories. where she talked about stories, and she talked about this through the lens of the parables of Christ, because she says the parables of Christ for sure didn't happen. Like, those are not factual events that Christ is recounting to you. Christ is telling you a story. And the point that she makes about stories is to say that a story can be true whether it happened or not. That the truth of the story is not 100% dependent on its historical accuracy. Now, that's not to discount the historical accuracy of Genesis, but that is to say, don't get hung up right now. If you're somebody who says, well, I don't know if it happened in 6 literal 24-hour days, forget about that for now, and think about the truth of what's being said in the next little bit. When God makes Adam and forms him out of the dust of the ground and breathes into his nostrils the breath of life, Adam becomes a living being. But then God looks at Adam and he says, it is not good for man to be alone. We're living that out now. We are alone now for the most part. We've never been this alone, and it's not good for us overall. We're not built to live in isolation, not for a long time, and what we're finding happening is we're coming apart for that reason. So part of your calling now is to push back against that thing that is not good, to push back against the being alone, right? The division between other people and yourself. And that's going to require you being very purposeful indeed. It's going to, and this is something that used to come very easy for most people, even people who are introverts, even people that don't like to be around other people. Social interaction was pretty easy to come by. One of the things I like to talk about here in this province of Saskatchewan is sometimes social interaction is easier to come by than you want it to be. Sometimes you'll be standing in the store looking at bread makers and someone will walk up and give you a whole bunch of advice about what bread maker you do or don't want. And, you know, that's fine. I'm not here to complain about it. But I am here to say that up until recently, human interaction was very, very easy. People were nice, and polite, and charming, and smiled and said hello, and shook hands, and all that stuff, right? That was easy. Now it's hard. The easy times are gone. For you to have social interaction is going to require effort now. It's going to require work. It is not going to come easy. It is not going to come without effort. You are going to have to struggle and strive to fight against that which is not good. Not good for you and not good for each other. Part of what we're going to have to fight back against is the overall suspicion we have of each other, being guarded, being on edge, even anxious by being around other people. And I don't just mean like because you're worried about catching something or whatever. I mean like treating other people as suspicious, treating other people as a problem always, that you have no free and easy interactions. You're going to have to make it more purposeful. That doesn't mean getting together in person in large gatherings or having potlucks or whatever, not yet. But what it does mean is that you are going to have to seek and find spaces and areas where you can unite with people, where you can meet up with them on the phone or over Zoom, where you can talk to them in passing on the street at a safe distance or whatever, but to really work to find some kind of vector for human interaction. It's not good for you to be alone. I'm seeing more and more and more every day of people coming apart at the seams. And the crisis, the post-COVID crisis of the mental health crisis is already here. Like, it's here now. I'm seeing it more and more. I wish I wasn't. And part of it is going to be pushing back against that which God has told you isn't good. There's all kinds of commands that God has told you are things that are not good. This is one of those that, like with everything else, is going to take some effort. All right. Good luck, everybody. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.